Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to all of you. I am going to be giving you an overview of this particular subject, that is laws, ethics and communication. So what am I going to talk to you about? I'm going to just talk to you about what this subject contains, how the paper is created, what are the different parts, how many marks there are, and a little bit on how you should attempt to study this paper. So let us start off with this particular subject. This is in your first group of this particular IPCC. So what is this subject containing? There are 4 modules if you see your subject. Module 1 is called Business Laws 1, which actually contains only one law, that is your Indian Contract Act 1872. Module 2 contains Business Laws 2, which is containing 4-5 acts: Negotiable Instruments Act, Payment of Bonus Act, Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act, and Payment of Gratuity Act. Module 3 is Business Laws 3 they call it, but that contains only again one act having 4 units, which is Companies Act 2013 based. And Module 4 is all about ethics and communication. Now, if you look at the subject, it is divided into 3 parts where your exam is concerned. That is, your Business Laws 1 and 2 is clubbed together and it is made into 30 marks. And Business Laws 3, which is your Companies Act, which we just told you, sections 1 to 122 is comprising another 30 marks. And this entire thing put together is part 1. So it is part 1 is Business Laws 1, 2 and 3 effectively comprising 60 marks. And part 2 is all about ethics. That entire module, which we said is single module, here it is split into 2 parts. Ethics has a weightage of about 20 marks and communication 20 marks. Overall, it is a 100-mark paper. And what you have in this 100-mark paper is 3 hours of time to attempt this paper. It's a theoretical paper. What is expected from you? What is expected from you is a working knowledge only, not expert knowledge. Question number 1 has been till now a compulsory question for 20 marks. Now typically students will ask this question as to which part is coming in question number 1. You can't say. There is no division in terms of parts as far as your question paper is concerned. What they do is question number 1 compulsory, which has got some 4 or 5 sub questions, which is totally comprising 20 marks, which is a compulsory question. So it can be across the entire subject. No particular weightage for this particular subtopic of Contract Act is more likely to come. There is no such thing. So Contract Act in its entirety, we have already said it comprises so many marks and all that they maintain throughout the paper. But where it will be placed, you can't say for sure. What about the rest of the questions? They give you another 6 questions, out of which you have to attempt any 5. So totally we are looking at 6 questions which need to be answered in a 3-hour time period. Effectively, that comes to around 30 minutes per question, plus or minus, because some of it is objective type of question. So if it is objective, obviously you will take less time. If it is case laws, you may take a little more time. So that takes me to my next point, that what sort of paper, what sort of questions come in the paper. True and false comes, sometimes a bit of objective comes. What is a particular thing, that is basically the conceptual question comes regularly. Case laws are given to you where you are supposed to understand the case and then answer the questions related thereto, applying the law of that particular question. So if it is a case law relating to, say, Negotiable Instruments Act, then you may get the case and then they will say, based on the Negotiable Instruments Act, explain what would be your stand, what would the court do in such a scenario. So that sort of question does come. So how will you approach that? That you think about it. You have to study more case laws for that purpose. Then only you will be able to answer this sort of question. Also, there is of course a typical your explain or your difference between or state the provisions of the act also come. So state the provisions of the act, immediately the question that arises in a student's mind is, am I supposed to remember the section numbers and clause numbers and rule numbers? If you can, then try and remember. But that is not the most important thing. It is okay even if you don't write it. If you do write it, write the correct one. Otherwise, the marks will be cut. So it is better, if you're not sure, don't write the section number and things. If you do know the normally used ones, it is better to remember. That is what my suggestion would be. But the gist of the provisions is what you need to remember. Do I have to remember it verbatim? That is what is written in the act. I have to write it as it is? Not necessarily. But the keywords, what is written, let's say in a definition, the keywords in the definition is what you need to remember, and the rest of it you can reframe it slightly provided the meaning is same. So keep this guideline in mind while studying the subject. Also, you do get drafting questions also, like draft the notice of board meeting or draft the deed, etc. So keeping this in mind, you need to study. Why did I discuss this so much? Now let me go back a bit to what you are supposed to study. That is your Indian Contract Act, the Negotiable Instruments Act and things like that, which seems a little, intimidating. That's the only word for it. You need not worry. Because Payment of Bonus Act, the Provident Fund Act, Payment of Gratuity Act is relatively smaller. It is relatively easier also. What is heavier and what is a lot more in terms of number of pages or number of items that you need to remember is your Indian Contract Act, Negotiable Instruments Act and Companies Act. So I'm not saying one is more difficult than the other. I'm not even talking about in terms of the weightage for marks, but I'm talking more in terms of what needs more time from you for preparation. So you need to prepare more in these, because in terms of number of things that you need to remember and the number of pages that you need to cover. What about ethics and communication? Ethics is a subject which you will see in a day-to-day scenario. So it is something which is very easily understandable and something which will go into your mind very easily. However, keep in mind that you're talking about business ethics. So look around you at the case laws that are happening around you and pick up from that. A recent case law would be like your HSBC. What happened with respect to them, what money laundering they did. Those are all ethics scenarios, isn't it? So apart from the case laws which they have already given you in your module, the faculty has anyway discussed it. Apart from that, the day-to-day what is happening in the papers, go through what the papers say, go through the economic times, go through the business standard, which will give you an idea what are the latest case laws that are happening. Also, communication. Communication, again day to day, but keep in mind that it is business communication. I just wanted to give you an overview of the subject. So all the best to you. Thank you.